any African who reached that part of history and you're not pissed, you're not a true African. Because this is not just a political move, this is a very spiritual move. Let's be very clear on that. It's as if the people living there had no brains. It's the council of elders, and I'm pissed. The human mind cannot see without words. The more words you have, the more you can see in your own reality. In the game of reality, the human mind interprets things according to the vocabulary that it has. Meaning, the lesser your vocabulary, the less you are able to see in your own reality. The more your vocabulary, the more you can see in your own reality. Now, today we have this term Pan-Africanism. What is our definition of the term? In fact, the first question should be, how many times do you say Pan-Africanism in your day? Because the lesser you say it, the lesser you can see it. Then unity becomes something else that you get to hear from someone else. You will always be objective to the fact that Africa needs to unite. But if you can be subjective to it, a subjective perspective is when it comes from the within. It's an inside-out movement. It's a movement that is coming from within you. Nothing outside of you, okay, defines this movement. It's your own personal definition, and that makes us a subjective move. Meaning, let's look at the different levels of knowledge so that we can see where Pan-Africanism falls with respect to the players in the game. And the game itself is called unity. Now, there's information. Information is running societies today. They yell this way, the society moves that way. They yell this way, the society moves that way. Information is nothing but things that you know. For example, today's news. So and so is running for president. That is information. That's not knowledge. 2, on top of information, we have training. Our education system is nothing but training. And what are they training you for? For the job market. You are meant, all right, to respond reflexively to authority. Meaning, when they say you jump, you ask how high. You don't ask why. The education system is there to train you. That's why they give more essence to the ability to remember and not to think. Because you're not supposed to think outside the system. That's the education system in the society today. On top of that, we have intelligence. Intelligence is not knowing. It is the ability to know. If you have the ability to know, then you can become knowledgeable. You're not knowledgeable yet, but you're on the right track because you have the ability to know. Then we get to the highest level, which is the knowledge itself. What is knowledge? Knowledge is awareness. Knowledge is the ability to understand from an internal perspective. All right? This is an internal understanding of the being itself, which is being involved in that information transaction itself. The moment you can understand yourself, we call it self-awareness. The biggest topic there is in human history is the topic of self-awareness. Because once you are aware, then you are free. You're free as a human being if you have the ability to know. I mean, if you're aware of not just yourself, but the environment around you. This brings me to the next definition of what? The brain and the mind. The brain is this muscle between your ears. That is your brain. But then the mind is your entire being, your entire body, and its environment. The moment you can understand that I am an extension of you, and you are an extension of me, suddenly you start walking around treating people differently, because what you reflect is what you get back. That takes us to the 12 laws of the universe. Among them is one of the laws which says, as within, so without. That what is within you, that is exactly what you project to your environment, direct. Your reality, the way it is a direct reflection of your internal state of being. Meaning, if you walk around confused, if you walk around in bitterness, you walk around in a sense of not enough, that is exactly what you project in your environment. And this is the funny part. It is very subconscious. You're not in control of this anymore. It is the one in control of you. Everything you see around you is a reflection of yourself. That's why they say, no man sees the same rainbow. Okay? Because everyone slices reality according to their perception of it. What you perceive, what you see, is a direct proportion of your perception of what you see around you, your state of mind, your thought pattern, and more importantly, your belief system. Because what is a belief system really? But a collection of thoughts. There's a thought that you've thought over and over again until you've convinced yourself it is the truth. And that forms your belief system. And these belief systems put together, they form your perspective. And your perspective becomes the perception or the lens through which you view reality. Meaning, from the roots going up, if the belief system, the thought system is already wrong, corrupted, then it's going to be the mother, okay, of a corrupted belief system. And that is going to be the result of a skewed, of a wrong perspective. And that gives you a reality which you don't enjoy. Because there's a funny thing about reality as well. Reality is not real. Everything you see around you is not real. It is a simulation. A simulation is a creation. It's a hologram. A hologram is not real. Okay? Everyone slices reality according to their perception of it. A hologram, in short, is, remember, before anything ever happened in the 3D reality, it first happened in the mind. Or in the 2D, let me be specific. In the 2D reality, then it manifests in the 3D reality. The 3D reality, in short, is forward, back forward, left right, up down. That forms your 3D experience, or whatever you can perceive with your 5 senses. That becomes your 3D reality. Now, everything else that happens in the 3D reality is just the secondary of what was already made in the primary space, which is the primary space stage of anything, is the 2D, which is your mindsets. The reason why I'm saying that is, today we have the biggest talk in African mouths today. It's about Pan-Africanism. It's about the reality that we want to be tomorrow. Futures cannot be predicted, but futures can be invented. And how do you invent the future? By looking behind. We look at history, and history determines what the future is gonna look like, depending with our track record, depending with our history pattern. Now, if we are living in a society of people, all right, who don't even believe in the fact that there's a unity can actually be achieved, then that means the talk of Pan-Africanism is nothing but noise. It doesn't even make sense, all right? So, if I was to prime you first, I was to make you understand that futures can be invented, that Africa can become one nation, one currency, one constitution, but simply because the players in the game, that is this generation right now, has not seen that before, it can be a bit hard to actually actualize that dream. But if we were to prime ourselves again, because belief systems, the good thing with the belief system is it's not fixed. It is something which can be changed. Meaning, if we were to believe, because everything that ever happened in human history, first of all started as a belief, that someone believed that this was possible. Then it became as a thought first, and that thought over and over again, it became a belief. Then that belief manifested in the 3D reality, that it was actually true, that it was possible to happen. Now, if the 2-3 of us could come together and actually realize that this is possible, that all these borders that were made in Berlin in 1883, that a group of people could sit down in Berlin in Germany, remember the Berlin Conference, called by a man called by the name of Otto von Bismarck. He called a conference in Berlin in Germany and decided to actually petition any African who reached that part of history and you're not pissed, you're not a true African, that someone is, that part of history is called the Scramble for and Partition of Africa of 1883, the Berlin Conference. Any one of you who reached that part of history, that someone could actually come and decide to take your land and divide it according to his own will and give it for parts. It's as if the people living there had no brains. It's as if the people living there had actually no business being there in the first place. This is the first part of history that requires to be changed, and it needs to be changed right now. How do we actually reverse that decision made in that conference? The moment we come down, decide to make all these boundaries obsolete and decide that Africa is one nation. Okay? I like the example of India. I've been in India for 6 years, and one of the things I realized in India was, India, they call it the Union of India. Different states, 28 states, coming together to form one country called the Union of India. Each of these states, some are bigger than some of the African countries by far. They have the state government, and there is the central government. The good thing is, if we actually were to look outside, there's so many stories, there's too much to learn from the outside that we could actually come and implement in Africa itself. But we are too stuck to what was given to us, that the Berlin Conference actually up to today, it still makes sense to the African. How many years later? 200 plus years later, the Berlin Conference, it still defines who we are as a people. That's not just an insult to our ancestors, it's an insult to our own intelligence as the existing Africans of today's generation. That's why we need to be very serious about the Pan-Africanism movement. Because this is not just a political move, this is a very spiritual move. Let's be very clear on that. That the moment each of us come together and decide to actually re-evaluate where these borders came from and the source of everything that we did. Remember that the divide and conquer rule, the oldest rule in the book, the biggest rule used by the colonizer. The only thing we have done is to prove him right over and over again. That actually was right to put us in different demarcations by the name of nations, by by the name of the African nations. This needs to be get away with right here, right now. Why? Look, can you decide, can you imagine what Africa would look like if we were to be one nation? Can you imagine what we would look like in the Africa, in the global market, if we were to have one currency? Can you imagine our level of organization if we were to have one government? Can you imagine what it would look like if each of Africa and over each one of us from wherever, from the north to the south, east and west and central, we all speak one language by the name of the African language? That's a story for another day. But that is stage 2. But before we even decide what is going to be our national language and wherever, we have actually defined what unity means for all of us. And that definition is not just on the mouth, on paper. No, this is a state of being for 1.4 billion people who are seated on this continent right now. My people, when I talk of Pan-Africanism, I feel like I don't just talk about it from the mouth. I talk it from the heart. Why? Because the futures that we want cannot just be a walk in the park. This is not just a dream that we want. This is not just a desire that we feel that it would look nice if we were united. No, this is a dream of someone. That there are brothers and sisters who laid down their lives to make sure that this dream becomes a reality. That there are people who forfeited everything they believed for, everything they stood for. They actually had to be stripped of everything for the sake of standing with the truth. And the truth was the United States of Africa. So, we are not just saying empty talk. We have a lot of history behind us. And this is the problem, again, I have with the education system. Because the education system is there to make you objective to your knowledge. That you don't have to be a part of what you're looking at. That's a colonizer approach to reality itself. That the colonizer makes you understand that you don't have to be a part of what you're studying. That's very dangerous. Not just in terms of raising the society, but in terms of the intelligence of the children, which is the tomorrow of that society. 2, we have to be subjective to what we are studying. To be subjective, to be a part of. To be not just a spectator, but to be a real player in the game of change, in the game of the education that we are studying. Meaning what? The idea is not to study about your ancestors. The idea is to become them so that you can continue them. When I study Thomas Sankara, when I study Nelson Mandela, when I study Jomo Kenyatta, what I want to be is, I want to take up his character so that I can continue him. It's not just for amusement. But the education system wants to make you understand that all you need to do is to be a good student of history. You need to know what happened in 1983. You need to know what happened in 1901 during the putting down of the first railway line in Kenya. And whatever, all this nonsense that we've been studying over the years. But there's nothing subjective about it. This is a wake-up call to every African who is tired of whatever is happening around. It's a wake-up call to each one of us who really actually wants to see change happen. Because change is not a static move. Okay? It's not a static point of view that we have to target it. No, it is very elusive. It is always moving. And if you don't move with the change, then this is what happens, that the times and seasons leave you out. When I look at the Bible, I come across the sons of Issachar. Okay? And it is recorded that these were men, all right, who had the ability to understand times and seasons. They could look at seasons and times and tell their people, this is what we need to be doing now. Imagine this was the leadership of our society today. People have the ability to actually understand what is about to happen and to tell the people, let us take this next move. Now, as we finish this, This is my parting shot. Sit down from a very subjective perspective. That means a very personal point of view, and redefine what African leadership means to you. Number one. Two, what is unity? Don't assume you know unity yet, because you don't. I don't either. The least we can do is actually start redefining unity, because unity is a language, and not many people speak it. And those who do don't want to share it with the world, because this is the story of Christ. You share your truth with the society, they turn back and kill you for it. That's the story of Imhotep. That's a story for another day. The first architect in human history, an Egyptian, to be specific, a Cushite by the name of Imhotep. This was an African. Redefine your unity first. Redefine your truth second. And then, and only then, can we talk of Pan-Africanism. Otherwise, it's going to be a talk for, like any other talk, that we sit down around bars, around, it's going to be another talk just like when we talk about cars, women and politics. Pan-Africanism is not a political move. It is a spiritual move, meaning there's nothing objective about it. It is a subjective perspective that 1.4 billion people have to define. Let's define unity. Then we can talk of Pan-Africanism. It's the Council of Elders, and I'm peace. Thank you.